I'm convinced the best way to learn Linux is to use it. In my previous video, I showed you how to install VirtualBox on a Windows system. Today, we're going to build on that. This is B from Taytog Tech, and today I'll be showing you how to install a Linux distribution in VirtualBox. Stick with me. I have a favor to ask. If you like this type of video and want to see more content like it, make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell button for notifications. Also, don't forget to give this video a like if you like it. Let me know what you liked, didn't like, or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts down in the comments section below. And lastly, make sure you stick around all the way to the end to get the most out of this video. Let's do this thing. All right, so don't worry if this is your first time using VirtualBox. It's pretty easy to use and you don't have to do a bunch of configuration. For this video, I'm going to be using Ubuntu Server 22.04, but really any Linux distribution will do. I'm using this one because it's well supported, and if you run into a snag, it's really easy to find a solution. By default, it does not come with a desktop environment, but I will show you how to install one just in case you want to add it. Now, let's go ahead and switch over to the desktop. I got my Windows system here. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this website in the description down below, so you'll be able to go ahead and reference that. But this is, you want to make sure you go to the website and you'll just download it here by clicking the download button. Pretty easy. Then it saves it to your downloads folder when you're using Windows by default, unless you set it for somewhere else. All right, so let's go ahead and minimize this. Now what we need to do is we need to get over to our virtual machine. So we're going to remove this one. I actually don't need that one. So let's go ahead and start a fresh one here. Now what we're going to do is we need to go ahead and start actually installing it in VirtualBox. So we're going to go up here to New. We're going to click on that. And we're going to go ahead and give it a name. In this case, we're going to call it just Ubuntu Server. And then if you want to specify a different location to save the actual files for it, then you can go ahead and do that. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is it's going to be where you're actually going to select the ISO image. Now, if you don't see your ISO image down here, then go ahead and select Other and then go through your file hierarchy to get that. Now we're going to select this one right here because this is the one that we need. And this is going to fill in this information automatically. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and just skip unattended installation. And then we're going to go ahead and hit Next. Now, this is where we're going to go ahead and specify the RAM and processor. Now, RAM you'll specify in megabytes. Now, if you're, you have two options for doing a Ubuntu server virtual machine. You can either do it with a GUI or without a GUI. Now, if you're doing it without a GUI, as far as your memory goes, you probably only need about 2,048 megabytes or 2 gigabytes should be sufficient. Now, if you want to start using it with a GUI, you can do it on 2 gigabytes or 2048 megabytes, but I would highly encourage you to start at 4,096 megabytes and plus, especially if you're on maybe an older system. That's going to give you a lot more to work with. Now, as far as the processors go, 1 to 2 should be fine if you're running it without a GUI. If you're running with a GUI, I would recommend 2 to 4 or more at that point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and set my memory to 8 gigabytes or 8,196 megabytes, and then we're going to go ahead and set this to 4. All right, and now the next thing it's going to have us do is specify our hard disk for the virtual hard disk, and then I'm just going to leave the default. 25 gigabytes should be fine. You can go down, I believe, as little as 8 or 10 gigabytes. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave the default. We should need more than that, and if you want to add more, go ahead and add more. That's up to you. All right, now we're going to go ahead and go through the summary. Everything here looks good, exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Finish, and then it closes that out. Now we're going to go up here to Settings. We're going to go over here in General. We're going to go to Advanced, and then optionally you can select to bidirectionally share your clipboard between your host and guest operating system. So just in case you want to copy and paste stuff in between them. Now, the next thing that we want to go ahead and do is we want to go down to Display. If you're going to be, now there's two things that I want to point out here when we're talking about video memory. If you're going to be running this without a GUI, then the 16 megabytes that's already selected is fine. Now, if you do run it with a GUI, then you're going to take this and move it all the way over to the max of 128 megabytes, just to make sure that you have enough video memory for those video applications. Now, the next thing that we need to go ahead and do is we need to go down here to Network. Now, you have a couple of different options for the network. Now, you can either do a NAT network, which is going to just basically create but what's going on behind the scenes, it just uses it doesn't get a spot on your actual home network. Is it's going to basically run its networking directly through the computer that you're hosting it on without having its own separate IP. I'm not going to get into the details of doing that just because it is a little bit more complex than what I want to talk about in this video. Or you can also do what's called a bridge adapter, which basically puts it on your home network. Now, if you're going to be if you want to be able to SSH into this server, you're going to have it as a bridge adapter. But you'll just want to make sure that if you do set it up with a bridge adapter, that you take the necessary security precautions, because your server will be exposed to the internet. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, and that's pretty much it as far as the settings go. So let's go ahead and hit OK to apply all those. Now let's go ahead and hit start on our virtual machine. All right, and give it just a minute to go ahead and power up. All right, we've got the splash screen, and then perfect. Let's go ahead and hit enter. It's going to go through some boot stuff here. This does tend to be just a bit longer on the initial install, so now keep in mind, the more resources you give a virtual machine, the faster everything is going to be. And that's another reason why I gave this quite a bit of resources, because I wanted to be able to make this process go quick. And now here we are in the install wizard. So go ahead, in this first one, go ahead and select your language. Mine is English. And I'm not going to update to the new installer because we are good with the current installer. Check your keyboard layout. I'm going to go keep mine at English US because I'm in the US. You can either do an Ubuntu server full installation, or you can do an Ubuntu server minimal. I would recommend doing the Ubuntu server because you're going to get way stripped down experience using the minimal version. So just keep that in mind. Now we're going to hit enter. Now right here, so if you're going to want to SSH into your server, I would highly recommend that you take note of this IP address that is right here, so that you can go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and hit done, and then we don't need to set up a proxy. And then the default mirror is okay. And then we're going to go ahead and here, we're going to go ahead and we're good with the entire disk. We're going to just keep it at the default. We don't need to do anything special here. And then this is going to just summarize that. You're going to hit done, and it's going to make sure you confirm that you're doing this. You only have one drive, so there's not really any risk here to you. So we're going to hit continue. And then here we're going to go ahead and put in our information. And then we're just going to call this Ubuntu test. That's going to be our host name. And then let's go ahead and put in our username, password. Whoops. Wrong somewhere. Whoops. That's not right. Oh my gosh. What is going on here? Hold on. I don't know what's going on here. I apparently can't type today. There we go. All right, and we don't need to set up Pro. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and enable an open SSH server. That's how you're going to be able to SSH into it. Keep in mind, it's completely optional for you, but I like to do it that way so I don't have to always be sitting right here at my computer if I want to SSH into it from another device. So to do that, you'll go ahead and hit the spacebar, and that'll go ahead and fill in the X. If you need to remove it, then just hit the spacebar again. I'll take care of that. Let's go down here to done. Hit enter. We don't need any of the software here, so we're going to go ahead and come down here to done, hit enter, and now we're going to go ahead and let it do its installation thing. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll be back once it has completed the installation. All right, we are back and ready to go ahead and reboot. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to let it do its thing here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and SSH into it. Just want to let it finish booting up. All right, it's playing with me there. All right, and should it be almost done? Go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and SSH into it. Perfect. Let me go and clear this out. Let me go ahead and make it just a bit bigger. All right. So the first thing we want to go and do is do sudo apt update. After anytime that after you do a clean installation of a Linux distribution, you always want to go ahead and run update. So it's just sudo apt update and then sudo apt upgrade to go ahead and finish the update process. And we're going to do attack Y in there to go ahead and accept all the prompts. And this shouldn't take too long, because it's only 57 updates, and then these are all really small updates that are being needed as part of this update. So this is also another reason why I gave it quite a bit more resource, because I did not want this process to take very long. And there's usually a couple things that are going to impede the ability of an update to be fast, and it's either going to be your internet connection, depending on how long it's going to take to reach out to those mirrors and download, and then also how much resources that you have available for it. If you're running on one single core and 1 GB of RAM, it's going to take a while to update, compared to running on 4 cores and 8 GB of RAM. So just keep that in mind. So perfect. We are actually updated here. All right, now the next thing that we need to go ahead and do is get the GUI installed, or the graphical user interface. So we're going to be using the Ubuntu desktop for this. There are other desktops that are out there, but this is the one that is going to do the best for this demonstration, and the one that really, honestly, I would use if I wanted to put a GUI on an Ubuntu server. So then what you'll do is just tack a Y on the end of that, and just do sudo apt install Ubuntu desktop. There's other desktop environments. If you're curious about those, go out and Google, and there's tons of tutorials on how to do that out there on the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter here, and we're going to let it do its thing. This will take a while, so don't get impatient. Just let it do its thing and let it finish. It will get there. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here and then come back once it is finished. All right, we are back here. So let's go ahead and just tab down here to hit OK. And that is good. All right, now we've got that taken care of. Now what we need to do is we need to do a sudo reboot. All right, and it's going to go ahead and reboot the virtual machine. Now let's come back over here to Windows. Give it just a minute here to go ahead and boot up. Now, once we get it boot up, we're going to have to install what are called the guest editions. Now, the guest editions are only needed if you're running the GUI. You don't need to worry about this if you're not running the GUI. So let's just get through these. Some of the information. Okay, let me just make this a bit bigger. Let's go 1280 by 720. There we go. Keep the changes. Let's get rid of this. What if I do this? There we go. And let's get rid of that. All right, let's come in here and let's do a Control-Alt-T. That's going to go ahead and bring up the terminal. I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen. Then I'm going to go ahead and blow this up for you. Just make it a little bit easier to read. All right, there we go. All right, so now we need, going back to the guest edition. Guest editions are going to add some quality of life improvements to using the graphical user interface. It's going to make it easier to scale up and scale down as you're working with the virtual machine. So you'll want to go ahead and make sure you get these installed. So you come down here, go up to devices, and you'll select insert guest edition CD image. And while it's doing that, we need to actually install some prerequisites. So we're going to do sudo apt install, and we're going to do bzip2, and we're going to do tar. We're going to do gcc, and we're going to do make. And then we're going to do Perl. All of these, I believe all of these are already installed on the desktop version of Ubuntu, but we're using the server version, so we need to make sure that we get everything installed that's going to be needed for these. So these 5 things are going to be needed. So just do that, and we'll tack a Y on the end just to go ahead and one less thing that we have to worry about. Okay, perfect. That is done. Now we need to go ahead and cd into the directory where it's housed, and it should already be mounted. So we're gonna do /media. Then we're gonna do our username. And we're gonna go ahead and do box. Yep, there we go. There we go. And that's the location. It should be in that location. The way that you can confirm that is going to be with df-tac-h. And we can see here, it's mounted right there. So this is it right here. If it's not mounted for any reason, then you have to go ahead and mount that. But if you're using the GUI, then it's right here. So it should automatically mount. All right, so make sure you do this after you've installed the GUI to make it easier on yourself. All right, let's clear this out. We're gonna run an ls, and this is the one right here that we're going to need. Is this one right here? All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a sudo, and we're gonna do // and then we're gonna go ahead and put in what we copied. Now, essentially what this is doing is this is going to run, this right here is a script, and it's gonna go ahead and run that script and install everything that it needs to. And basically what we're here saying was like, hey, run this script here in this current directory. Because if not, if you didn't put that there, you'd have to put out the full path to it. So that's why we want to go ahead and use this. And then what you'll do is you'll go ahead and hit enter. And give it just a minute here to go ahead and finish up. It is almost done. Give it just an extra moment here, and it's gonna kind of do some goofiness. There we go. All right, it is going to be a little goofy now, so let's go ahead and see. There we go. See now if we shrink it down, it's going to go ahead and scale it for us. There we go. See that? And there's a few other things that it does as far as this stuff goes. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, we are all installed here. Our Ubuntu server is ready to go and ready for us to do all the tinkering and learning and all that good stuff. So that's how you install a Linux VM in VirtualBox. Check out the other videos in my Get Into Linux series. If you're caught up on that series, check out this other video from my channel instead. Remember, mistakes make you better, so keep on making them. Thank you so much for watching my video, and have the greatest of days.